Happy Canada Day, my fellow Canadians. One of the things that really bothers me, among the many things that's going on now in our poor country, is how the Liberals have hijacked the English language. They use the words, but they don't mean the same thing. You see, they can't say what they're doing. They won't call a thing by its name. They'll call it by something else. And the best example I can think of that is gay. When I was young, gay meant happy, carefree, lighthearted. That got stolen, of course, by homosexuals and lesbians to now gay. To anybody ask gay, the meaning of gay, it means that you're in a same-sex relationship. So for curiosity's sake, being an old fart, I got a dictionary. Yes, a paper book. And I looked up a couple of things. One of the things I looked up was the word progress. You see, a lot of the policies being put forward, what's going on in the educational system, we call progressive. The Liberals hold themselves out as a progressive government. Now, I'd like to read the definition of progress from a book. Progress, forward or onward movement in space, advance, development. Move forward or onward, be carried on, advance, develop. See, that's progress. So progress in a business would be developing new products, getting new business. That's progress. Progress in a nation would be developing its natural resources, creating new business opportunities, new work. What are the progressives doing? It's not progressive. It's repressive. The progressives are trying to limit free speech, limit the information you're allowed to hear, limit what you're allowed to say, but they call themselves progressive. Use the proper word, repressive or totalitarian, because it's not progressive. What they're doing is suppressing your right to speak freely, suppressing your right to access all the information you need to make a decision. Propaganda, but they call it progressive. And this goes on all over the world. We see this, how many totalitarian regimes, People's Republic of China. What say do the people have in how they are governed or ruled? None. So where's the People's Republic? A republic? Is their government a Republican-style government? But call it the People's Republic of China, rather than a brutal repressive dictatorship. And that makes it more palatable, you see, if you say that. How many times have we seen, when I see the People's this, or the People's Democratic that, almost invariably, it's neither for the people nor democratic. But call it something more palatable, something less honest. And people, oh, well, it's a democratic public. No, it's not. My buddy laughs when we talk, and the phrase that he likes I've used when we were talking about the current government, and I said, people forget, these are not your father's Liberals. Now, I went on a previous post how I voted Liberal, and because the Liberal Party of my youth is not anything like the Liberal Party of today. Ceased to be after 1968, after Trudeau Sr. came into power. I'd like to read you the definition of liberal. I looked it up online just for fun, and it's changed. The online definition has changed. They've even changed the definition to suit them. So their party doesn't suit the definition of liberal. They changed the definition of liberal to include their party. I'll show you what I mean. Ready for this? Liberal. Now, some of the definitions do not apply anymore. Generous, open-handed, not sparing of. Okay, that one we know. Ample, abundant. Not rigorous or liberal. Open-minded, candid, unprejudiced. Open-minded, candid, and unprejudiced. Yes. Oh, indeed, that's our government. Of political party, etc., especially in England, favorable to constitutional changes and legal or administrative reforms tending in the direction of freedom or democracy. That's our liberal government, trying to shut down free speech on the internet, trying to limit conservative content. Really? By that definition, this liberal government is anything but liberal. So we see words being hijacked in pursuit of an agenda. You know, I've used the analogy before. If you call shit feces, does it smell? Does it stink less? Does it become more acceptable? Don't call a thing by its name, because if they said what they're doing, progressive education, what is it? Is it education? No, it's not. I went on a post on that before. It's indoctrination. Molding young minds to their agenda. Free speech isn't allowed. Questioning? Not allowed. Alternative viewpoints? No, not allowed. Mm-mm. And so, under this government, it's led this wonderful country down into this orgy of self-flagellation and mea culpa, and moaning about our sins, cancel culture, tearing down statues of Sir John A., tearing down statues of Egerton Ryerson. The loony left on Toronto City Council want to tear down, rename Dundas Street. Are they going to rename the city of Victoria, named after Victoria? How far are they going to carry this madness, the cancel culture mob? Because every time fanatics get hold of something like this, it always goes to extremes. Always. Nothing stays constant. They don't have, you've achieved a goal and let's stay here. No, the radicals hijack it and got to carry it on to more and more and more extreme levels. So I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to motion. Well, that's of course BC. Loony left are very strong in BC. The stupid is strong in this one, Skywalker. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they rename Victoria or move to rename Victoria. That Toronto City Council would even for a moment consider what I consider one of the stupidest ideas, which is the renaming of Dundas. But there is no stopping the loony left. They got the bit in their teeth. And now that they've got the control, they're going to keep carrying it on. We used to live in a democracy where there would be at least the pretext of democracy, where the pretext that the will of the people would be heard, right? Not now. You are told what they're going to do. You're not asked. You are told that you will approve of this, and if you don't approve of it, too freaking bad. We're going to do it anyways. Democracy, right? Free society. We saw what happened at Yonge and Dundas Square when people showed up at the crowd of people at the anti-mask rally, and what the police did at the behest of Metro City Council. Nazi stormtrooper tactic. Like, I back the blue. I'm pro-police 100%, but what they did there was disgusting. And the ticketing that went on during the lockdowns. Again, the police who used to serve and protect. Well, serve and protect whom? Sure as hell not the city of Toronto, or not the people of Toronto. Serve and protect the politicians. Serve and protect your political masters. And the ripple effect of that is going to go on for a long, long time. People will remember the police actions of that time. So we've been led down this, like I said, this orgy of self-flagellation. Aren't we terrible? But because they don't teach history proper, because it's all edited and selectively edited to put us in the worst possible light, what's happening today? You look at the residential schools, okay, and the mass graves, the bodies being found. What people are forgetting and what is not being properly brought out in this, don't get me wrong, I in no way excuse what was done. I'll get to that. But how long was that school, each school where they find all these bodies, how long was it in operation? Like this was not, 271 children. They were killed like in the space of a year or 2 years. How long was that school in operation? They took these Aboriginal children who had no natural resistance to things that we were okay with, right? Tuberculosis. They had no resistance to that. Pneumonia, typhus, typhoid. Diseases that would come into these residential schools and sweep through these kids like wildfire. And the vast majority of those children died of disease and illness. In some cases, in many cases, they had no way of getting hold of the parents and informing them. The shameful thing is that they knew that they were on the chopping block. They knew they were on the hot seat that they had taken stewardship of these children and that they were failing and these children were dying. So they didn't put markers, they just buried them to hide their shame. That is the crime. That is the true crime. They knew that they were guilty and they buried those bodies to hide the evidence and hoped they would never come to light. So that's the shame. But like I said, look at that school, 271 children. Amortize that. How many years was that school in operation? How many of those kids died per year? Look at that. Look at that. And then it gives a more fair picture of that. Now to Trudeau, now of course he's jumped on this with hyperbole, genocidal country. No, we weren't. There was no concerted effort made, unlike the US, to wipe out the Aboriginal peoples. Most of it was accommodation, treaty. Yeah, we broke treaties. But today, the natives are breaking the treaties, the agreements they made all over the place. Smuggling cigarettes, smuggling arms, smuggling booze, when they agreed to abide by the laws of the nation. Who's breaking the treaty? And what are the ramifications? None. Government hasn't got the balls or the guts to act like a government. Again, both sides, balanced viewpoints, fair reporting. You don't get that out of the media. You don't get to hear two sides. Every story has two sides. Every tale has two sides. We don't get to hear the other side. We get to hear what the government approves and what the media, the government arm, publishes. That's called propaganda. So we're sinking into this morass of totalitarianism on the part of the liberal government, where we are being castigated by China. China, of all freaking nations, to wag the finger at us for our treatment of our native peoples. China? As Trudeau, at least I was surprised he actually had the nerve to tell them, we have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Where's yours? And of course, that got no response. And then a senator, a Canadian senator. Well, of course, he's from BC. Looney left, you know that, appointed by Trudeau. So Looney left and a liberal, and you know that. That's Senator Pao Wu. Wagging his finger at Canada and Canadians. You're in the freaking Senate. You got your hands in the pockets of the Canadian taxpayer. You thieving little bastard. You're sucking off the Canadian taxpayer for your living, and you're going to wag your finger at us? That takes a lot of freaking nerve. Let's look at China, right? Oh, the treatment of the Uyghurs and how they're trying to spin that they're trying to prevent terrorism because these are Muslims, and this is and advance, less advanced peoples. I wonder if they would tell that to the Tibetans. They invaded little Tibet. Tell that to the Taiwanese about the benevolent Chinese government. The Taiwanese who are poised because they know, sure as shit stinks, that I'd say within under 10 years, there's going to be an out-and-out bloody war when China tries to take over Taiwan. The advances they're making, the gains they're making in Australia, and their treatment, and their violation of Australian law. Blatant violations because the Australians, whom I used to admire, government's got no stones, and letting them get away with this instead of holding them to task. China is advancing its will. Chinese espionage, industrial espionage in the Western and developed countries. Canada is getting it. Chinese government agents. Oh, and don't even mention the diseases China has been so kind to bestow upon Canadians: SARS, swine flu, bird flu, and now, of course, COVID. Right? All thanks to the Chinese. But no, we won't say that, will we? We don't want to ruffle the feathers of the Chinese. It's really sad what this country has become. The two Michaels, how long have they been in prison? Watch Ezra Levant from The Rebel did a great show on exactly that, the two Michaels. Aaron Gunn, who's running for office, I hope, in Vancouver or Victoria, and is going to hopefully get in there and maybe start making some changes. People with common sense, people with brains, people who really, truly love this country. I've gone on before. We forget, well, the government forgets that when you look at people like Ryerson or Dundas or Sir John A., they were products of their time. And of that time, the British Empire, to be a member of the British Empire was considered a singular honor. Like old Rome, to be a citizen of Rome was considered a singular honor. Britain truly believed that it was the acme, the epitome of civilization, of manners, of culture. They truly believed it. And under that belief, they attempted to force all the cultures into which they came in contact into compliance with them, because they truly believed that the things that in retrospect we look back at as totally unacceptable, they were doing these for the greatest reasons. We're going to take these native children and assimilate them into the British Empire, make them good little Canadian citizens. They took those poor immigrants like my parents. I went on in a previous post about this. You weren't allowed to speak your own language at school. You weren't allowed to have a foreign sounding name in school. You had your first name, you either got assigned one by the teacher, or you had the choice of picking a nice Canadian name, English name. If you spoke your native language, Ukrainian, Polish, Norwegian, Danish, Finnish, Russian, on the school grounds, not even in the class, even on the school grounds, you would get the strap. Should all these Ukrainian immigrants, all their parents, all their sons, should we and my siblings and all the other kids whose parents went through that, should we be going after the Canadian government for suppression of our culture and for the sins committed? It was of the time. In its context, they weren't bad people. They weren't bad things in their context and understanding the mindset. And this is, again, the destruction of Canada under Trudeau, that all this is being put to the wayside, and the very worst elements of this are being harped on and blown out of proportion, rather than a balanced viewpoint. That treasonous hump is destroying our country. Now an election is coming, and the people of Canada will have a choice: continue down this path of destruction, or halt the downhill slide, get somebody up there who's got a pair to take control of this country, to become the leader and a party, start getting us back on track, get the pipelines built, start telling China to piss off, start getting rid of their agents here. Stop bringing Chinese troops to train with our military. Stop bringing Chinese scientists and giving them access to our most secure labs. A government that can understand the term national security. Oh, my poor Canada. This is going on a little longer than I hoped it to. But what I'm asking all my fellow Canadians, think. Don't just swallow the narrative. Think. An election is coming, and you will have a chance to overturn the stupidity that is permeating, I won't say Canada, but Toronto, Vancouver, the screwball, Ottawa. Don't even get me going on Ottawa. We can overturn this. We can hit the slide. We can stop this. All it takes is one strong, ballsy, gutsy, proud Canadian leader to step up call a spade, and galvanize the people of Canada. Galvanize your neighbors, your friends. Speak to people. Get them mobile. Get them to see. Open their eyes. As Canada will cease to exist. It's going to be stolen right up from under our noses. Old people like me, we have our pensions. But the next generation, man, are they going to have a rough go of it unless we do something now. So, happy Canada Day, my fellow Canadians.